Loyalty program as a concept, it's not a very new concept. It is something that retailers have been deploying ever since retail itself came into place. But the form and shape and the avatar in which it is used and it is projected has changed. Uh, Today, when we think of retail, we always think of how to retain the customers, ensure that the footfall is there, the customer who has purchased once keeps on coming again and again to my retail shop. And therefore, with technology coming in, with so much customer data coming in, the previous session, people talked about data being gold, so how that gold can be utilized. So what in this session we will try to do is, we will take view of some of the esteemed retailers to see how they believe customer perceive loyalty programs and how a retailer thinks about building it. So let's start with the first one. Firstly, what is the business objective of a loyalty program? Is it is it simply to drive the immediate sales, or is it more to build a customer brand which can have indirect benefits? But let me start with you and hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, like you said, customer loyalty programs were created initially to drive sales. You interact with customers, you get a chance or a platform where you talk about your promotions, you talk about your new product launches. It gives you an excellent opportunity to directly interact with your customers. But over a period of time, what has evolved is that it's the data that you get from the customer CRM programs. It tells you completely about the customer buying behavior. When does the customer buy? If there is an occasion in the family, is the person actually going doing multiple purchases from multiple store locations? Also, it gives you a big insight into what are the adjacent categories. If somebody is buying into one category, is he also buying into something else? And today, in integrated companies, the CRM programs actually go across different categories. So you actually get insights of multiple different categories bought by the consumer. So this consumer buy behavior data which you get gives you a big insight on how to drive your customized programs for them. So if you have a program which is customized for the customers, for example, in our case, when a customer gets married, he comes to our brand Ethnix, but we also know that he goes to the other Raymond shops to buy the marriage suit, right? So when he's come to our store and is made a purchase, it is excellent opportunity for you to create a very customized program for him, saying, hey, this is also available in our adjacent store. Why don't you come across and have a look? So this gives you an opportunity to talk to your customers and give you multiple occasions in the customer's life to actually make something very relevant for him. I think that has become more important. And finally, of course, it leads to more cross-selling, more increase in sales. And of course, the most important part, you drive stickiness of the customer to your brand.
Got it. Shailendra, your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So I think customer loyalty programs are more and more becoming core and fundamental to pretty much the economics of the organization. If you think about any company which is a B2C, the the relationship with the customers is like a leaky bucket where you're doing your bit to acquire customers, you spend all your marketing to get them, but at the same time they're also almost making one purchase, not coming back, etc., etc. And this is where a strong loyalty program plugs that gap and makes sure that you're able to retain the customers, and not just retain them but move them up the value chain. I mean, at Nykaa, for instance, we see when we have the first time purchase by a customer, if she's shopping, say, worth rupees X, her spends average order value almost doubles the next time she comes and kind of then goes beyond from there. I think that is really fundamental to this. What we also see is, and the preview program is a strong indicator of it for us, our top sale contributors are our most loyal customer base. And if you think about it, in every segment, every industry, there are multiple options to a customer. Now, the brand which is salient in her mind is the brand where she goes back and shops. And that's where, again, customer loyalty program plays a massive, massive role. Overall, as an organization, you can't just be in a constant acquisition mode. 80 to 90% of the sale has to start coming from your repeat customers. And that's the core objective of a loyalty program which it delivers. And in case of Nykaa, for instance, we see that happening.
Got it. So what we are talking about is, one, building that stickiness to drive cross purchases across sectors, and Shailendra, you talked about building that loyalty so that the customers keeps on upgrading. Got it. I'll also just go to Amit. Arora. Amit, any thoughts from you?
Yeah. So I think one most important part is the experience. I think experience is the key factor here. So brands, when working on the experience which customer are getting, is getting the customers are more loyal to those brands. So one simple example is the omni presence, right? So if you give even the person is buying online, or maybe abandons its cart, or maybe adding something to the wish list, but when the person is present at the store after abandoning the cart or after adding product to the wish list, the store manager should be able to access that wish list, right? And as per the study, 90% of the customers prefers to buy from the brands who recognize them and offer them certain values or certain rewards. So that is the key factor where the seamless integration of various channels is very important to become a customer to be more loyal.
So let's deep dive more into this theme, right? What we just discussed, that what companies expect from loyalty program. I think Amit touched upon the point that how what customers want of it. So let's touch this theme, that what makes a loyalty program very attractive to the customer. And if I may invite Raj to share his thoughts on it.
So, as an organization, our vested interest is how do we really increase the LTV from a customer perspective? Because every single organization is spending a lot on customer acquisition, undoubtedly, right? Whether you spend on marketing, branding, whatever, there is a customer acquisition cost. Then after that, what do you really do to increase the LTV? As a retail, that is the fundamental thing that any organization would look at. The second point is, because we're all in the world of technology, digitally immersed, right? How does technology play a meaningful role in intervening into this, right? So as soon as the customer comes into your app or website or whatever, the first fundamental thing is, do you really push your customer to actually log in, recognize, and then how do you really personalize the entire experience? Because loyalty is not about just saying that I'll give some points, I'll give some rewards. The first thing is, how do you personalize the experience? Second thing is, I think gone are the days where you say you buy a product, then I'll remember your birthday, I'll remember your anniversary, then I'll send you an SMS with a coupon code. I think that's age old. Imagine that if a customer has selected a product on your cart, and then you know your historical behavior of the customer, then how do you really start now showing the second product or third product, which is more meaningful, and you automatically think that you know the taste of this particular customer, hence you are proactively suggesting. If you really look at Amazon or some of them, you select one product, automatically you know if you had a historical performance, the website starts behaving customized to your preference. So the entire experience has to be personified based on real-time shopping experience. That is what we thrive on. The second dimension to it is, how do you really create that excitement for the customer to really come back more often? Because today's customer attention span is 8 to 12 seconds to decide whether they want to buy or not. And probably each one of us have like 20, 30 apps on our phone. How do we really make sure that every brand is fighting hard that customer has to spend that 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes in our app? That's where the valuation to sales, everything happens, right? How do you really make sure that the customer really comes onto our app? What is that excitement factor in a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis you're creating for the person to actually come back? It depends on the category that we actually operate on and how technology makes a difference. The third dimension to it is, how do you really create that status, particularly if you're sitting in the Indian economy and Indian mindset, right? Customer likes to be considered that they are premium, right? How do you classify them based on the purchases and then instantly upgrade them to a status that they feel that, yes, I've earned a privilege, I feel special. And how do you define that special? Makes a lot of difference, right? So that is what we do. The fourth thing is, how do you really simplify this entire program so that it doesn't look like a bait and switch? Several times what happens is, our loyalty programs are so confusing, expiry plus complicated way of actually doing it, then there is a minimum purchase. You add up all of this, customer will never know how many points they can use for a particular transaction and then how much is the value. So never make it like a bait and switch, keep it simple and give the customer the choice to actually exhaust. So this is what I would say from a retail perspective. The second dimension I would add is from a wearables perspective, because I take the charter on the wearables. We actually are using the loyalty program to create stickiness, and we are saying most of the people who actually buy wearables lose interest beyond 30 to 45 days, because then it becomes a notification device, or people are just using it to just swap the watch faces, even if it's Apple or anybody is fighting that. So we have taken up that challenge and said, how do we take meaningful interventions, taking loyalty and sustenance, and gamify the whole experience for the user? A, to make habit forming. B, incentivize the user literally on a daily basis. And 3, thereby upgrade or convert the value. So that's what we have embarked on this year, combining machine learning, data science, and hyper-personalization to offer something as a very unique experience to our consumers. I know it's a long answer, but...
No, I think you covered 4 important dimensions. We'll come back to you. Yash, take your thoughts as well on this particular theme.
Sure. I'll take an analogy of what an advertiser says, right? So no matter how much you spend on marketing, no matter how much you spend on advertising, if your product is not good, then it's not going to sell. I think that is something you should be very careful about when you're trying to launch a loyalty program. There should be something which customers feel proud about for them to actually promote and talk about your brand or talk about your products. It's very humbling to be in Wakefit, where a lot of our sales come from word of mouth, and we have numerous examples of where one person we bought a mattress, and then he actually convinced his sister to buy a Wakefit mattress, because when he would go to their home to sleep over a weekend or something, he would want to sleep on a Wakefit mattress. So for us, loyalty is very inherent, because a lot of sales happen through word of mouth, and this was the mechanism to actually build a structured program around it and find ways to also incentivize users to do loyalty. I'll add a couple of points which were already mentioned earlier. Your loyalty program needs to be very simple and transparent. So users should be able to understand what do they need to do to get their points, how can they redeem the points, and most importantly, they should know what are some of the things in which they will not get the points, because there's a lot of, when you start doing loyalty, it kind of becomes a very complex structure. You want to ensure that you are incentivizing people. There's also a risk of abuse and fraud. So you actually put in a lot of guardrails, and that actually makes it a very complicated structure. So when you're rolling out a loyalty program, you need to look at all the pros and cons of what are the incentives you want to give, what are the checks and balances you want to do. And in my opinion, it's better to recommend a bit more on the incentivization so that it becomes attractive for customers. But of course, you need to have the right checks and balances there. The second one is you can't think of loyalty as a single fit for all the users. So you need to have some sort of a tiered program. So one program for people who are just starting and becoming your, recommending your brand, recommending your products. And as they evolve more into the journey, as their customer life cycle increases, they'll become more stronger proponents of a brand. And as they become more stronger proponents, your loyalty program should also have a appropriate reward and incentivization structure for them. You can also, and it need not always be money, you can also build things like gamification. So for instance, how many times has someone actually visited a store, and then you can give some points, and you can actually have that as a part of your loyalty structures. The third one is, and the last point is that at the end of it, the rewards have to be something which are valuable. So for example, if someone does a lot of work and only gets a very small reward, then it's not exciting. So you need to kind of have all of these thoughts and all of these options set up properly when you're kind of defining the loyalty program. And it's a lot more complex than what we think about here.
Thank you. So I think if I have to pick up the themes, right, what customers want to see, they want to see excitement, they want to see personalization, they want to see exclusivity. There has to be some form of tiering. The communication has to be simple, and at the heart of it, there should be a very good product out of it. So great. So what we know now, what customers want out of loyalty program, let's deep dive into what goes into creating such great loyalty programs. And Vipin, if you can start from it, if you can throw some light on, as a retailer, right, when you have to design, how do you leverage the tech that goes into it, what considerations do you have, and what are the challenges that are being faced and addressed by the retailers?
So I think the the complexity of the tech underlying a loyalty program with all the dimensions that the fellow panelists talk about really depends on the brand and what they stand for their customers. So, for example, for Starbucks, we stand for being in the business of human connections. We pride to be a third place where a customer comes in, and they feel the warmth, connection, and of course, we then, have coffee while they're there. So I think when you think around this, the thinking around the loyalty design, the program design, and the technology design has to serve a lot of these pillars and the philosophy. Now, for example, let's say I'll talk about two topics: access and value. I think Raj also talked about this. But let's say in terms of access, we want to make sure that the access to the loyalty program and the tracking of that is very, very simple. But because we are also a wallet, it actually throws a lot of complications into it. So for example, one dimension, as I said, warmth, connection. We actually probably the only retailer in India who doesn't ask for phone numbers. Right? When you go to a barista, they will talk to you about coffee, about how is your day being, what you like, but they never will ask you for your phone number. It's a bit of a till there or some card where you can download the app, and now we've launched WhatsApp program as well. They might nudge you, but they will never try to intrude you in your whole thinking process and what are you feeling, and how can we help your day or make your day by serving the right coffee and the food product, right? So I think data collection becomes key, and how do we really provide that access, and then when you want to use it, it actually provides more challenges, because now let's say for a retailer, let's say from a connectivity standpoint, I have to act as a mini bank. Whenever you go to my Starbucks, you need to have always have the connectivity. Imagine, and when I joined Starbucks, I remember in Ahmedabad, we used to have a kiosk which never used to have connectivity. And my brother used to travel, and then, he went there, he loaded his card with 2,000 rupees before flying from Mumbai. And then we went to Ahmedabad store. He said, "Where is the loyalty?" He said, "Oh, sorry, sir, yahan to network doesn't work, and hence I can't accept." And then he calls me and tell me, "Boss, you've joined as an IT head and you don't have connectivity at stores," right? But I think that's the kind of challenges that we face, and hence we become like a mini bank branch. We have to have the connectivity all the time so that you can access your points, you can access your wallet all the time. Cybersecurity becomes a big dimension, which again, I would say, let's say our app will be one of the most secured apps in India, retail apps in India. After banking, we have two-factor authentications, we have wallet data. So we need to make sure that we have, the customer data is protected. So all these things are there, from a tech standpoint, which very nuanced to our brand, which needs to be taken care for a loyalty program. Now, let's talk about value also. So again, our endeavor always has been to create more and more differentiated experiences for our customers from a value standpoint. So for example, one of the challenges or the loyal customers face today in India for us is that a lot of our stores don't have connectivity. So for example, you go to a Geo Mall store and you try to open up your app. Because there is no mobile connectivity inside, you can't actually access the app many times. So, and then again, customer thinks, "Oh, what the hell?" So while I'm in your store, I have 5,000 rupees in my app. What do I do? So then we have now working on a concept called Auto Wi-Fi Connect. So we have a certain kind of hardware in our store. So you walk into our store, if you're giving me the permissions, then your app automatically gets connected to my Wi-Fi, and you actually can then just access your app anytime you want. We have done a lot of personalization. So, for example, as I said, in line, the concept of warmth and connection, the entire messaging on the app, which you see, is actually one-on-one. It's ChatGPT integrated. So when you open the app in the morning, you get a welcome message, which is actually based on your favorite drink, the context, and the tone is also personalized to your age. So I think that's how we endeavor then to take the technology and then fulfill all the pillars of simplicity, access, value, consistency, and then underlying our philosophy of warmth, connection, and being a third place.
Thanks, Vipin. Amit Gupta, if I can ask you also to share your thoughts on this particular piece.
Sure. So we operate in food sector. We have multiple brands under Rebel Foods umbrella. Behroo's Biryani, Oven Story Pizza, Smoor, Fasus. So before loyalty comes the brand, as we run multiple brands, how do we see brands and how do we think at Rebel Foods? So to codify and simplify across the org how to build deeper brands, we have defined 3 concentric circles. The innermost circle is the best-in-class product and service. If the product and service is not great, eventually we are going to lose the customers. be it any food brand or maybe any other sector. Second is hospitality, which is little bit wider term. To simplification, we call it personal delight. Now there comes the challenge also, because we are, let's say, largest internet restaurant operator, 5,000 internet restaurants. So how do you provide personal delight when you are operating the food restaurant online? Then the third is creativity and differentiation. So wherever the touch points are, when customer touch points are there, whether app, storefront, or third-party apps or aggregators, offline stores, anywhere, what the brand is communicating to the customer, is it clear enough? So that's how we deepen the brand information of brand philosophy. Then comes loyalty. Of course, loyalty for me is a little bit bigger, that how can we transcend through generations, right? So as of now, in tech world, we have defined in points, earning points, burning points, and all that. All those solutions are, of course, there. But how do we go deeper into providing more personal delight, that every time the customer interacts with us through technology systems or through food products, how happy are they feeling? Are they going to be our brand ambassadors or influencers? Because we consider our customers who are going to be loyal are going to become influencer and brand ambassadors for us. So yeah, technology comes in between. I'm heading tech, but I'm talking a little bit non-tech. But yeah, means technology comes to solve these problems.
Clear. So net from to build a successful loyalty program, as I think both of you highlighted, there is a tech part of it which, let's say, the retailer can control. There is another tech part of it, or infra part of it, which the retailer cannot directly control. As Vipin, you were hinting that if your store is in a mall, it will also depend on the facilities that are available in that mall. So that is something that retailers see as a challenge, and they have to work towards it. So great. Now we know what retailers want to achieve out of a loyalty program, what customers want to see in a loyalty program, and then what goes into the design of a loyalty program. Let's cover the last theme, which is ultimately, as a businessman and as entrepreneurs, we have to look at the ROI of things, right? And the ROI also, there is a time dimension. What is the immediate term benefit? What is the medium term benefit? And let's say, what is the long game you are playing? So Amit, Arora, if I can ask you to come in and share your thoughts on this, that how do retailers balance this dichotomy where on one side there is always a need for, let's say, what is the instant ROI, 6-month or 12-month ROI, versus how much can the retailer play the long game where they play for the long and maybe can compromise a bit on the short-term ROIs?
Sure. So you're absolutely right. Every program ends up with either revenue or profit. So which is the most important part. And you rightly said that customers are our organic brand ambassadors, right? So how many have gone to Myntra just to redeem their 500 voucher or any of the voucher which you have got on your message? Anyone? You don't want to do shopping, but you just visited there just to redeem the voucher, right? So it is very important. The program, loyalty program, whatever you build is not boring, okay? So you need to come up with some delight or some surprise wherein the customer interacts with you. So one very big factor which increase the revenue, I'm just touching both points, the revenue and the profitability. So the revenue will increase when you call off the customer, you understand the loyalty versus non-loyalty members. What is the customer life cycle? Okay. So the non-loyalty members, how often they are visiting your store? One of the very good factor is the RFM. So recency, frequency, and monetary. So you need to definitely personalize maybe the customer groups you can create out of this method, right? Which customer target, which customer you want to target on what basis, so that your revenue can come up. Which customer who are coming, who are giving you good revenue and coming more often, which is the highest points. You need to target those customer segment to increase your profits. So both things are very important, but it is very important that we should not go with the rat race. कि दूसरा ब्रांड ये कर रहा है मेरे को भी ये करना है नो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट योर बिजनेस रिक्वायरमेंट इज एंड व्हाट योर कस्टमर्स आर okay so one brand is giving a AR VR capability wherein the customer is coming and the virtual try-ons are there. Your brand or your product needs a touch and feel. You don't need to do that, right? So the investment, where you want to put investment is very important, and how you drive the program and how you give points. I've seen brands wherein 90% of their points stays unredeemed at the end of the financial year, and they don't take a provision in their balance sheets, right? So it has to be attractive. You have to create groups, and now AI is there. You can personalize. A personalization is very important. In the last session, one gentleman from retail, from Reliance, was mentioning. So if you're giving a personalized experience, hyper localization is another thing. But at least location wise, if you're giving some offers, so some offers may work in Hyderabad, some may work in Delhi. Okay, so you need to do a lot of personalization to achieve good results, and the person or the customer should come to your brand, buy more, and you can reduce the churn also. So the customers who are buying and because of no loyalty or no rewards, they're going back. You can reduce that churn. Again, it is increasing your revenue, right? So both things needs to be considered, revenue and profits. And obviously the ROI will come when you divide the cost of your discounts, freebies, birthday messages, or even the tech or the Wi-Fi you're giving free, right? That is also the cost, which adds loyalty. It's right. So that again it depends upon the brand. So we may not need to give the Wi-Fi, but we may need to give a good experience and talking to the customer about the product and attributes. Right. So again, it is depending upon the brands and depending upon the loyalty strategies which you want to build. But again, the revenue and profit both needs to go side by side. Right.
Got it. Shailendra, you want to share some thoughts?
Yes. I think having a sharp measurement is the bedrock of any loyalty program. And what then that means is that, of course, when you're doing a short-term estimation, which could be 3 months to 6 months, how much has she purchased, how much have you been able to redeem, and kind of the value. And that is pretty straightforward. But I think the larger benefit of loyalty program has to be seen in slightly long-term ROIs, which are typically visible at least in a year or couple of years down the line. And that's where the lifetime value that the shopper is able to spend. And kind of your loyalty program has to stand the test of, if for instance you've got your most premium loyalty consumers, are they really the largest spender? Are they adding the most to your P&L from the kind of products that they're buying? Because if the customer is coming back to buy the same product or same category over and over again, then perhaps somewhere he or she is gaming the system. However, if you're able to use your loyalty program to really expand the kind of categories that she's buying with you, the number of transactions that she's making, and the nature of the brands as well, that's when actually your loyalty program has stood a real test of being able to do the job of moving a customer from X purchase to many more, because that's when as an organization you gain, but at the same time you've also been able to offer the consumer a little more of a choice, a little more of a reason to keep coming back to you. And that's where the symbiotic relationship in a way works.
Very, very interesting point, Shailendra. What you are saying is beyond the, let me, if I can call it the financial ROI, right? It has to be a specific metric. And as I think Amit Arora was also mentioning, it could be different for different companies. Let's say in case of yours, the metric could simply be whether the customer, if the customer is, A, customer is coming again, B, are they trying to upgrade or not? Because that is what you want to achieve. And that KPI could be different for Raj, could be different for Vipin, could be different for Bidyut. But there has to be an adjacent and a very, very strong KPI that actually measures what this loyalty program is expected to achieve, and which might mean that at immediate term, it may not show what we call seeing the benefit in the P&L, but ultimately it is preparing the ground for that. This is a very, very interesting and very, very healthy discussion. I'd like to open the discussion for any questions from the audience, and then we can conclude. Yes, please. We can arrange for some mics.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My question is to everybody over here. I just checked, I have 103 applications in my phone right now. And I think about 30 odd of them are running loyalty programs. Be it your banking applications, be it Myntra, be it Agio, Tata Neu, you have it all. Honestly, we don't get the time to go across all the applications and see what points we are carrying right now. Some brands have started consolidating it, like Tata has consolidated all their apps into one. Reliance has, I just realized it yesterday that Reliance has also consolidated it. I went to a Reliance store and bought something, and they said you already have 600 points lying in your wallet. Would you like to redeem them? I said sure, go ahead. Why not? So do you see that in the coming times, all businesses coming together and consolidating it? Maybe not marrying the businesses, but marrying the loyalty programs into one, so that it's easy for a consumer to utilize it and be more proactive on it.
Yeah, so maybe I'll take a stab at it, and then perhaps Starbucks will be pretty well equipped to address some of that. I think, look, if you look at loyalty program from any retailers or a brand's selfish perspective, the idea is that the customer should be able to come back to that particular brand and kind of get the benefits out of it. And hence, from that perspective, it's not the accumulation of points, but it's the redemption which is critical. And being able to tie the customer back to the ecosystem that you're operating in. And hence, of course, these programs will work beautifully when you've got large kind of group of companies where there are multiple smaller or multiple retail labels. Reliance and Tata's are classic examples of those, to create a super app of just the loyalty and simplify it for the customers. And ditto for Nykaa as well. For instance, for Nykaa Fashion, Nykaa Beauty, Nykaa Retail, we provide that umbrella and make sure that it's the same which is reflecting across. But I think if you're asking across retailers to come together, then I think that's where a bit of the conflict will also lie. And what is the objective of that loyalty program is where this will come in.
Yeah, so no, I think to adding to my fellow panelist point, I think it's also because loyalty is not about transactional, right? So I think if the agenda is to make it very transactional, ki, okay, I'm giving you 3% cashback and and then all that, I think then your argument is right, or maybe there is some merit. But I think if I'm trying to make loyalty as a very experiential and a very brand specific, I think the best example comes to mind is Star Wars, right? So Star Wars, and now they are married Bonvoy, but like let's say they would give you access to certain events and programs which you can't do it even on money. So and then the kind of the treatment that they give you, when you go to their hotels, and if you're a platinum member versus a gold member, they just nobody, they will not offer you as a normal consumer. So I think when it is more strategic and more experiential and rather than transactional, then I think I don't think I would be doing it.
I think I'll add just 2 points here. One is, I think as was mentioned earlier, it's very difficult to make a unified loyalty program across all things. For example, like the purchase value may be very different. The amount of points you can redeem will be very different. So I think eventually, and not all loyalty points can be not all loyalty programs can be actually simplified to a purchase leads to X points which you can redeem, right? Some of these may actually be access to exclusive events, may actually be maybe you are first in the sale on that brand. They could also be that the service you get on that brand is very different. So, for example, if a top tier person shops on a platform, maybe the way the product is delivered to the person to that customer is very different. So it becomes difficult to have a unified one. But I think we are in the age of startups, so there might be someone who will figure this out.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers.
Thank you.
Yeah.